Article 10. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $71,013 for the purchase of one fully equipped frontline police cruiser? This would replace a vehicle that has already retired. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen. The estimated tax impact is 6 cents.
Move the question.
Second.
Okay. And who's speaking to it?
I will be.
Enough.
So last year, the voters, thank you, approved the purchase of a new Tahoe, which is now in service. And if you're interested, you can see it's right out here in the front line. That request last year was to replace one of two vehicles that were retired and scrapped due to rust and other mechanical failures. This request is to replace the second vehicle that is missing and also continues on with the life cycle program that the chief has put in place last year, and I recognize Chief Moore to speak more to this.
Just raise your hand if you need it. Information on the vehicle asset lifecycle plan is back there. It's on the right-hand panel. We just did the mileage on all the vehicles. Pretty much the Dodges sit right around 85,000 roughly true mileage. However, we idle our cars a lot. Per the manufacturer, every idle hour that we have is equal to 33 miles driving. So in reality, the Dodges have about roughly 150, 160, 170,000. Even with our life cycle plan, those have to last multiple years yet to come. If this is passed this year, it'll still take probably 15 to 18 months before we actually get that upfitted, receive it from the manufacturer, upfitted, to get it out on patrol. So there's a significant delay just due to shortages. Same thing as we got last year. I would also throw in that I did review state bids. The price did not increase for the vehicle. I did see one bid that was significantly higher. So prices are probably going up. I believe it was like $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 over for a dealer that put a bid in from out of state. Of course, we do go with the lower bid, which is the same price that was last year. Thank you.
Recognize the Chair of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The Weare Finance Committee is recommending this article by a vote of 7-2. The committee supports this article to replace a cruiser which has previously been placed out of service and sold for scrap. The current fleet has 4 Dodge Chargers and a Tahoe for patrol. The chief uses our 2013 Explorer. The current situation is undesirable as it requires using a marked patrol vehicle for administrative needs, such as going to court and transferring evidence to an out-of-town storage facility. Approving this article would move the new vehicle into patrol and remove Weare PD markings from a Charger, which would then be used for administrative needs. Ensuring the full availability of 5 patrol vehicles will also provide the chief more flexibility in patrol now that the department has a full complement of officers. Thank you.
Thanks. Discussion.
Madam Moderator, in 2020, the cost of this vehicle was $50,000 on the warrant. Last year it was $61,000, and this year it's $71,000. Those increases in cost strictly dealer cost, or cost to purchase a vehicle, or are there any additions, things added to the vehicle that drove that cost up?
So it was a different vehicle, I believe, in 2020. I don't believe we went for
It's
a
a Chevrolet Tahoe 4x4.
All right, thank you. It was an increase from the 50 to the 61 because they redesigned the Tahoe and the price went up that amount. So that was a manufacturer increase in price from state bid. Last year's vehicle, there were 3 things we did not include in the warrant article. One was the computer. Even if we don't get a vehicle, the computers we get in the vehicles are only good for 5 years. That's their life cycle. So we need to replace one of those a year. I tried to put that in the budget last year. Of course, the budget failed. So this year I just put it in the warrant article as part of the price of the Tahoe. The second cost was we're adding a hotspot and an external antenna. It gives us increased flexibility for an additional option in case our radios don't work, where we can link in. The officers use a different phone where we can link into the hotspot on the vehicle if the vehicle's running and we're close enough, and use the wireless access to actually access our radio system. That's only good from about 70 yards from the vehicle from what we've tested, but it does give us another option. The third thing that we added, we didn't realize that when we ordered this and Chevrolet changed their design, they no longer come with the little spotlight on the vehicle. Well, we looked into adding the normal spotlight, which was about $500. If you do that, it voids the warranty, which obviously we didn't want to do. The other option is the spotlight that you have on it. That's, I believe, about $1,100. The actual price is on that right side of the board over there if anybody would like to look at that. But those are the three things where it went from 2 to 71.
So this is a fully equipped vehicle then?
Yes, sir. I did also add 3% just because we don't know how much cost will go up between when we put in for the numbers for the article, the warrant article, and what we actually have to pay for it once it's approved and we order it.
Now, this is a critical vehicle for obviously critical need. I noticed that the board is putting a lot of unreserved fund balance money towards another article, $260,000. Just wondering why the board hasn't used any unreserved fund balance money to offset the cost of this article.
We elected to bring it to the voters.
Pardon me?
We elected to bring this to the voters as a warrant article. That was our decision.
Wouldn't you think that using unreserved fund balance would help the voters decide? It would reduce the actual tax rate for voters?
That discussion did not occur.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
You want to read it and then bring it to me?
I won't be able to read it if I give it to you.
Oh, well, no, I said, why don't you read it and then bring it to me? Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan. Okay, so here's my amendment for Article 10. Shall the town raise and appropriate the sum, if I can read my own writing, sum of $71,013, which is the price on the article, for the replacement of one fully equipped frontline police cruiser, with $40,000 withdrawn from the unreserved fund balance, and the balance of $31,013 to be raised by taxation. Estimated tax impact of 2 cents.
Okay, there's an amendment on the floor. It has been moved. Do I have a second for this amendment? Okay, I have a second. And so discussion on Article 10 as amended.
I speak to the amendment. It is a critical vehicle. I think putting money towards it to offset the tax impact will maybe influence the voters to approve this. It's a tough sell for the police department in any situation. The selectmen have decided to use $260,000 for a highway department vehicle, which I don't disagree with. But I think they need to spread the love around and maybe give $40,000 of undesignated or unreserved fund balance to offset the cost. That $40,000 can come out of the $260,000 for the highway department. So instead of $260,000, it'd be $240,000, $220,000 for that particular vehicle as an offset. So.
Okay, other discussion?
Neil Kirk, Mount Dearborn Road. I'd just like to remind folks that you can't spend money twice. If we take the money out of the unreserved fund balance, then there's $40,000 less at the end of the year for the selectmen to use, admittedly at their option, but for the selectmen to use to lower the tax rate. So if you spend it now, you won't be getting it back at the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. I need to apologize to the chair of the Finance Committee because he should have been the next up, so I apologize for going out of order.
And I just point of clarification, on the last article when this happened, did I comment after it was accepted or before as to whether I would approve it? Because it's an amendment.
You commented after the amendment was.
Right, so I'm not commenting on from the Finance Committee's perspective right now because the body would have to accept the amendment, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And that was my understanding. I was just going to make one point. Historically, from what I've seen in this town, I'm sorry, Tom Downing went to Bray Lane. I'm speaking for myself, backing up. There has been, it almost seems like confusion with the taxpayers anytime you try to split up costs between funds and taxes that we raise. So I know the chief has struggled with this over the years, and I think previous chiefs have, and I really just think it makes more sense to have all or nothing. And I'll speak from the Finance Committee after we.
Are you saying that you want a minute to speak to?
No, I'm speaking to myself as a taxpayer, and I'm not in favor of this amendment. Excuse me, I should have stated that. In terms of the Finance Committee, I don't speak until the body has recognized the amendment.
Okay.
Correct? Okay.
So I just need to, we have a point of clarification for the person who proposed the amendment. So Mr. Bott, there's some concern about the language, and so we're going to ask if you'd be willing to amend language in your amendment. You say to raise and appropriate for the replacement of one fully equipped. It's not a replacement. It is to purchase. We're not replacing.
Okay, so
So would you be willing to amend that language?
to what?
To purchase instead of replace.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the original article did indicate, maybe for clarification, that it was replacing an existing vehicle.
It's replacing a vehicle that's already come out of service.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And then I recognize the Finance Chair, if you'd like to speak to it on behalf of the Finance Committee.
It hasn't been voted on yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Luke, I'm sorry.
Luke Drake.
I got myself confused there for a moment.
First off, I'll say as a fellow moderator, yeah, that happens. No worries. So on the, what I don't understand is I'm in support of the vehicle, but the question of the capital reserve fund, if what we're talking about then is whether let me see, is this a net zero discussion? In other words, are we taking a block of money that's already allocated to one vehicle and some other things, or are we talking about taking reserve that is not yet allocated to reduce the tax burden for this vehicle?
I believe, if I'm accurate, and Laura's going to back me up here, that it would be taking money that's in a balance in a fund and applying it towards the purchase of this vehicle, thereby reducing the tax impact initially on the community, to Neil's point, that at some point this is taxed money, correct?
So this is taking an additional $40,000 out of your fund balance to apply here.
Sure.
I don't know whether there's an intention to later try to amend the Highway Department article to reduce the amount of fund balance that's being used there. But if that's not done, this is additional $40,000.
Okay, so my point being that if that money is just sitting in the bank and we need to use it for a vehicle, and as has been mentioned several times this year, we're in a year where the inflation rate is at 7%, I think it could be explained to the taxpayers that this is helpful. Now, at the end of the year, does that, that money wouldn't be there for the town to give back to the folks, but really what we're talking about is one way or another, you got to pay the piper for the vehicle. If we've got money in reserve now, let's take that money and apply it and get the vehicle and reduce the balance that's just sitting there, because just sitting there waiting for something to spend on. Now, I understand things happen and we might need that money later, but I think it would be an easier sell to the taxpayers to say, we, recognizing where we are economically right now, are going to pull some of our reserves to take care of this need, because I've seen these vehicles get shot down year after year after year because folks, I think they're just financially sensitive. So I do think that would help the voters support the vehicle.
Thank you. Thank you. Other discussion?
Frank Campana. I would support the amendment, and I understand the consequences. You take from one or give to one, you may lose from another, which would be an upcoming article. But I don't believe that that might be the case, because nobody, well, except people at the table, I, as a taxpayer, I have no idea how much money is in the undesignated fund that is at disposal to the taxpayers. And I'll tell you why I am questioning that. We won't know. We won't get an answer to that. I was quite surprised when I saw an upcoming article to fund a vehicle fully from the reserve funds. I'll address that later on. But I'll tell you, folks, you don't know how much money, and I don't know, we don't know how much money the Board of Selectmen have at their disposal. And you will never know. But I still would support the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Capan. Liz?
Liz Evans, 84 Oak Hill. So my comments have nothing to do with the amendment, but per the article as written.
Actually, Liz, I have to restrict you. I apologize, but we're only commenting on the amendment. And so if this amendment moves out by vote, we'll then go back to as written, and that would be when you would make those comments.
I see.
So if you want to see what happens, basically it's a putting a pin in it and waiting.
Yes, I'll pause here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Moderator. I'm Brent Dickinson from Dells Way. Point of clarification for me, if I could address the Chief directly, I'd appreciate it. Chief, you're saying on this that this is replacing a retired vehicle?
Yes, sir.
So I don't understand, how do you guys budget yearly, annually for each vehicle? Has that already been scrapped out? Where's the budget for that?
It's not in the budget. I would love to get a vehicle in the budget, but it's not in the budget, which is why we're doing it by warrant article.
No, I mean, each year, each vehicle has to have a yearly budget to maintain it.
Oh, correct. Yes, sir. There's $10,000. It's $20,000 total. I divided it up into two lines just for better accountability. One's for just general maintenance, and one's for repairs, damage, stuff like that. Ordinary items, non-ordinary items.
So this vehicle has been retired. That budgetary accommodation, is that still in effect on the books that will affect the new cruiser?
It's the same amount. The amount was never reduced.
It was
Yes,
never
sir.
reduced.
Yes.
Okay, so
Oh,
perfect.
sorry. It's been $20,000. I'm a hand talker. It's been $20,000 total for my vehicle repair maintenance budget since I've been here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the article as amended? You taking a second? Okay.
I'd just like to clarify, the amount of money that's coming out of the unreserved fund balance has already been determined by the Board of Selectmen at $260,000 for that vehicle, Highway Department vehicle. Taking $40,000 away from that and using it to offset the cost of the police vehicle, it will not take any additional money out of the unreserved fund balance.
So I just need to make a point of clarification, though, because what you just said is that your intent with your amendment is to take $40,000 away from another warrant article, and that's not reflected in here. And
That will
so
require an amendment of that article.
Yeah, so the cart, I think, is sort of before the horse, because that's not reflected in here.
No, it would actually, that article would be amended down $40,000. So
When we
I
get
think-
there, you might make a amendment to shift that warrant, but we're not there yet. So
Right.
that's a hypothetical at this moment. So
Well, I'm just saying that the intent is not to increase any money coming out out of the unreserved.
So your hope in this warrant is that later on, you might amend another warrant so that there wouldn't be a change in the total dollar amount. But
Right.
that's a hope at this particular moment. That isn't a fact.
Right.
Okay. I'm just clarifying that.
Although, I mean, I would ask the board to tell me that they can't afford to take another $40,000 on the unreserved fund balance, but the intent is not to do that.
This will be in response to that and also
Excuse me, John.
Frank's comment.
Selectman? Hang on one second. I'm sorry, I
I
recognize
was gonna-
you. Can you just wait one moment?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do it? Okay.
Yeah. The unaudited fund balance at the end of 2021 was $1,959,603. That's unaudited. So if we take out the 40,000 now and the other 260 later on, we'll still have just over 1.65 million in that fund.
What's the 5% requirement number?
That's unreserved fund.
No, I understand that there's a 5% minimum requirement to meet our obligation with unreserved fund balance. What is the 5% number?
I'd have to refer that to Beth.
Are we above the 5% with the number you just quoted?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, so this vote that we're about to make would be on the amendment, and I'm going to read the amendment just in case there's any confusion. So, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $71,013 for the purchase of one fully equipped frontline police cruiser with $40,000 withdrawn from the unreserved fund balance and the balance of $31,013 to be raised by taxation. The estimated tax impact is 2 cents. So all those, I had the first and the second, so all those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I have 24. All those opposed of the amendment? I've got 1, 2. Ricky, is yours up? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So the noes have it, so that amendment has failed. Okay, so now we will return to Article 10 as written. Any further discussion on Article 10 as written? Nothing's changed? Okay. Okay, any discussion on Article 10? See, I told you it would happen if you waited, Liz.
So just for transparency, my question was with regards to the undesirableness of the decommissioning of a vehicle to have it unmarked. For transparency, I like to see marked vehicles. So in terms of the cost and the equipment within it, one of my fellow Finance Committee members had to explain that the equipment within the cruisers have to be upfitted for the new cruiser. And so my question was, could these materials or tools that are used within it be used for the new to reduce the cost and expenses?
No. So different vehicle. It's a Dodge Charger, so obviously the equipment in that is sized for the Dodge Charger compared to a Chevy Tahoe. Should the life cycle management program continue once we hit the 5th Tahoe, then yes, that would offset and you won't see $70,000 warrant articles anymore. If the cost stayed the same and there was no inflation, they'd probably be in the low 50 range because we would be reusing equipment, particularly the police radio, the backseat partition, the seat, lights, siren, and such.
And this would be a non-patrol vehicle that would be unmarked.
So everything is technically a patrol vehicle. You have command vehicles, which the one that I drive and the new one would be referred to, because we're under the incident command system. We're here for emergencies. If there's an emergency, it's imperative I get on scene and Lieutenant Hebert get on scene. That's why there's the primary designation for that vehicle. Everything's a patrol vehicle. We just kind of went with the terminology of the other 5 being frontline vehicles. The reason you don't want everything marked, and we are actually going to mark it, but we're going to unmark it with what the state police also does. It's called ghost graphics. They're reflective. They do see wear, but it's not as obvious. So everything will have. I'm not going to do it with the Explorer. The Explorer's so old. I'm not going to waste $1,200 of taxpayers' money just to put ghost graphics on that, because we don't know how much longer that's going to last. Hopefully a couple years. But as far as if a Dodge were designated as a command vehicle, it will get ghost graphics. We do have one that's already fading out anyway, which quite frankly needs to be replaced. Did that answer? I tend to ramble. So did that answer all your questions?
I believe so. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Marjorie Burke, Merrill Road. If the voters say no to this article next month, that mean no that the selectmen cannot use fund balance, unreserved fund balance to purchase a new at the end of the year?
You can never use unreserved fund balance at the end of the year to purchase. If you have excess proceeds at the end of the year, sometimes you can use those to purchase. But no, if this article is defeated, we'll have a no means no situation and they will not be able to buy it.
Thank you.
Frank Campana again. I was confused right at the beginning when they had the budget hearing. I tried to get an answer. I probably did get an answer, but didn't register. In the article, it says this would replace a vehicle that's already been retired. Okay. In the Finance Committee, which seems to be a little bit more descriptive to me, it indicates the article, approving the article would move the new vehicle into patrol and remove a Weare PD marking from a Charger. So, in fact, it's not really replacing a car that's gone. It's replacing, the new one would be replacing a car that's coming out of service. So, I know the head's shaking no. I'm going to leave it at that, or he can respond.
Thank you.
So we have a complement and authorized 3 vehicles. I currently have 7. We used to have and I don't remember what year it was, a Ford Taurus, and we used to have a Chevy Crown Vic. No, Ford. Yeah, sorry. Oh, that was bad. Ford Crown Vic. That's like our idol car. A Ford Crown Vic. Both of those wouldn't pass inspection. So since I've been here, both of those had to retire. They were sent to St. Auction, and we got a couple $100 for each, maybe a little bit more than that. But they were no longer serviceable vehicles. I still have a vacancy from the Crown Vic not being replaced.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm just to concur with the last speaker. I am one that's totally against a town vehicle being unmarked. I think every vehicle in the highway department, the building codes enforcement, and fire department is all marked. They are all marked. I don't subscribe to the fact that we need an unmarked car with the explanation that, well, I don't want people to know where I live. That has been stated in the past. I think that's too bad. I want to know that when I see a car, especially one that may be a police car, if I see it in a parking lot somewhere or just on a drive, I want to know where that car, where my tax money is.
Thank you.
We support that car. I support that car in the respect of maintenance, anything to keep it running. and I think I deserve to know where it is and how it's being used.
Good enough. Thank you, Mr. Campana.
Good morning again, Brent Dickinson, Dells Way. I want to state that I am in favor of having an unmarked cruiser. Sometimes it comes down to officer safety. Just want to put that out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Looks like we've weighed in. So it's going to move as written. Okay, all those in favor of restricting reconsideration on Article 10? I think that takes it. So